sky right before my eyes, just like the sea moves me every time, calling to me, begging me. Reality reminds me I still want you. I want you. I still want you.
Hey hoes, I'm Crit,
I'm Donata.
And I'm Vi.
and welcome to Island Fever, where grown-ass Pasifika people talk about doing grown things. We are here at the beautiful Kaimana Beach Hotel, thanks to our sponsors Kaimana, the Ione Foundation, SoCal Picket, and Don't Drink the Water in American Samoa. Yes, that's the name of the cafe. Shout out to Basil and Leilua Stevenson. All right, so
fam.
yeah, we got a whole bunch of Filipinos on our season for season 3. And today we are welcoming Randy Soriano from the LGBT Legacy Foundation. And
Yes,
our overall
Randy.
topic today is how do I reconcile my faith with being queer? And who better than the biggest queer?
To the biggest queer on the island. Hey.
Only the best.
What's up, Randy?
Only the best.
Welcome, Randy.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us about your work at the LGBT Legacy Foundation and all the good things that you do out there.
Yeah, I mean, the Legacy Foundation was founded in 2008. Most people know us for Honolulu Pride, the LGBTQ Center Honolulu. Last year, we actually stewarded the Honolulu Rainbow Film Festival. So we're actually in a new era of the foundation and trying to elevate queer artists as well. But we also have Pride 365, which is our year-round programming. So really what we wanted to do is bring Pride out of October, out of June, and intersperse it throughout the year so that people have a safe space throughout the year. I mean, girl, we need to be celebrated every day, girl.
Every
Okay.
day, every day.
Yes.
And so your presence here is just another layer to that. And so we're just so grateful that you get to share your story and drop some wisdom within our community.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
So you know, Island Fever, we're about Pasifika people in particular, but the services you provide service our communities too, right?
I've been a part of the foundation for about 8 years. I'm going to be fully transparent. When I first joined the
Yeah.
board, no one looked like me. There was a very little representation of any BIPOC people on the board. And granted, that's not out of intention. I think that's out of necessity. As the board was evolving, I think people who got involved, and we appreciate everything they've done for the foundation and the community, that's unfortunately how it manifested itself, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think that's a bad thing, but I also feel like we're in Hawaii. And it's a melting pot, but also like we need to have Kanakas on the board.
Yeah.
Maybe about like 5 years ago, there was like this resurgence.
Okay.
We had a couple of new board members. We had
Yeah.
Tati, my friend Tapu, and Ha'ahel from Kaimana.
Okay, Hot Hill.
Yes,
Yes.
girl. And really what they brought to the foundation was just this sense of place and sense of belonging, right? And really having the foundation fully represent like our host culture. We realized that gap. And
Yeah.
we really wanted to see the foundation manifest itself that way. And then we've just evolved. So, I mean, I love saying that if you look at like the before and after pictures,
Yeah.
it's amazing. Crit was actually at our gala.
Gala, yes.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
singing my ass off. Yo, that was a really, I was telling him I was really impressed with the gala, and then for him to say that this is the first year that he's been executive director, I was like, yo, check you out.
Wow.
Yeah, so-
Impact.
Yeah, so it's been like amazing. When you see the group that's on the stage, they just represent such a vast, diverse group of people. So many ethnicities, but specifically a lot of Pasifika faces, which is important.
Yeah.
You know, there's trans representation on our board now. There's Mahu representation on our board now. So it's nice to, as a person of color, to sit there and look around and have people look like me. You know,
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
very lonely in the beginning. I was like, oh, girl.
You stood through it. You did the change work that was necessary, right?
Yeah.
Like part of the beauty and the challenge of starting something that is rooted in advancing towards a common good is that it might have been a seed planted somewhere, and then you learn along the way of like what's missing, what voices need to be raised up, and who deserves to be at the front-facing place of the work, because they're also the ones driving it.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful evolution. So we're just super grateful for that.
Yeah. So it also sounds to me like, in a sense, this might be problematic to some folks, but the nonprofit industrial complex
It's rough, girl.
Get into it.
is also really connected to church, right? And when you think about like setting out to support a mission-driven anything, right? Like that is in all the essence of and the tenets of like faith and organized religion.
And how you're expected to do a lot of shit for free, right? Like you're supposed to extend yourself to whatever, whoever the leaders are. You're expected to just give everything in the name of the cause, right? And that can also mean to your detriment, and nobody's gonna really be there to hold you up. So it's a bit of a hot ass mess. But so how are you doing in your position?
Are you okay?
Not y'all unloading on Randy like that and this and that.
Yeah, we're talking about faith and how we can reconcile our queerness with our faith. And one thing that the Philippines has in common with Pasifika, communities is Christianity plays such a big role in our lives, right? So can you speak a bit about growing up in the Philippines? And did you grow up in the Philippines?
No, girl. I grew up in
I knew that.
Kaimuki, right up the street, girl.
Right, but your man's grew up out there, right? Your man's grew up in the Philippines, right?
My man grew up in the Philippines. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So I grew up in a very religious, conservative family, and it's interesting because it's like two dynamics, right? Like my dad is like second generation Filipino, so very Catholic.
Yes.
Girl, you know the
I
Catholic
grew
church.
up
We could
Catholic
go
as
down a
well.
rabbit hole with that one, girl.
Wait, are they cut or uncut out in the Philippines?
Girl, support. That's what it's
Someone
called.
get credit.
But most, it's an interesting dynamic. I feel like they have a special, unique way of circumcising there.
Oh,
Okay.
It's like my husband.
Not both of y'all so intrigued. Both of y'all were like, really?
Girl, don't quote me, but my other half always says it's called like a flower cut or something.
That's so beautiful.
Cute, right?
Bye.
wait, I've
Get
never
me
seen
on.
one. Isn't
Yes.
that like-
So it's like
Okay.
you're kind of uncircumcised, but there's still like skin.
Hurry up so we can talk about
Girl,
church.
religion, girl, religion. Back.
Okay, back to the Philippines.
Let
yeah?
me bring it back in. So my dad was second generation Filipino. We're very Catholic on his side.
Yeah.
My mom grew up also in the Catholic Church, but somewhere in her like 40s, she, became like a newborn Christian, super church kind of girl.
Yeah.
So I experienced both. Probably the two most conservative churches you could probably be a part of. So with that, there was a lot of constraints, a lot of like regimented Christianity and Catholicism. Like we went to church every Sunday. And then as
be on Wednesdays.
yes,
listen.
yes, and then as I kind of gotten older, like in my like teens and my 20s, I obviously kind of gravitated more towards like the larger church, Christian church concept.
Okay.
Because there was a little more freedom there, but I learned, girl, that the conservativeness in that Christian church was wild, girl, and I think it was just really difficult for me to like grasp.
Okay.
But the queerness in me, I think like the trauma of us being queer, we have to like excel at everything.
Yeah.
So I threw myself in like the Christian lifestyle. I'm like, girl, I am gonna go do volleyball and extracurriculars at church. I'm gonna go
Yeah.
hang out with the boys. I'm gonna go like
Try to butch it up.
yes, girl. And then
Okay.
in the mornings before school, go do like morning devotions with like my church friends, and then it was a very interesting experience. It's
Yeah.
a lot of like masking, a lot of like dual like living, which was so inauthentic to who I was.
Yeah.
So much overcompensating, too.
Yeah, girl.
Right?
Sounds
Overcompensating
exhausting.
to-
It's
yeah,
exhausting. It was
100%.
exhausting. And then into my 20s, like I'm embracing my queerness, but I'm also like, just having to continue on in that life, right?
Yeah.
And I think the expectations of like my family and like I think part of me always knew that they knew I was queer, but then part of me always was just like, girl, you are the youngest. You need to be fierce. You need to be good at everything. So
Yeah.
live this Christian dream for them, girl.
Yo, did you going back to the point you made where you just poured yourself into the church as a way to like kind of show that you weren't, as a way to hide your queerness, right? I consider being a priest. I'm not even playing because then.
Wow, I didn't know this about you.
No, yeah, I remember telling my mom, and she was just like, "What the fuck?" Like she really was like, "How? I don't understand." She couldn't get it, and it really was because if I became a priest, I would never have to come out. That's really what it came down to.
Wow.
Huh.
Okay.
Can you imagine me as a
How-
fucking priest?
I mean, I could because
yeah.
you're someone that moves people, right? Like you have the energy and the care and the heart, for service, right? I think ministry for you just looks different than or outside of organized religion, but it's still ministry, right? Like this is an example of ministry.
That's true. That's true.
Did I
Building
just say
community,
something?
Yeah,
sis.
you did. You did that. Ate it up.
But yeah, confessionals. Oof.
I growing up Catholic also. My parents didn't put that much of an emphasis on us to go to church. I really loved that in my home, and my uncle dad who raised me is Filipino. And really their mindset was, well, actually that's not entirely true. Up to a certain age. I think like it wasn't until I was 8 or 9 years old it was no longer a requirement. It became, okay, if you feel called to come to church with us on Sunday, come to church. Otherwise, your ass better be up, cooking, making sure that by the time everybody comes back, food's ready, right? Like, and we can have family kumain. But I'll never forget, because as a good little Catholic, and why did I aspire to become an altar boy at one time? I just thought they were the coolest people in the church. Neither here nor there. I didn't end up becoming one.
Was it the attention, maybe? Getting the attention?
I just thought it was drag. Like, it was artistic.
It was the fit, girl. It was the fit.
Yeah. It's
The
the
ritual,
fit.
yeah.
It's the
Oh my
ritual.
get
Like,
it,
I'm like, this is performance. I don't want to be part of it. Like, yeah, I didn't. But I'll never forget when I got to give my first confession. And at the time, I didn't have the language, right, for like all of the things. But I did confess to my priest that I liked boys.
Wow.
And I'll never forget that he leaned in with so much open heart and like made me feel like it wasn't wrong, even though he was like, okay, well, just say 10 Hail Marys.
It's interesting, though. I mean, I think so much about how organized religion also forces blind obedience.
Yep.
And, I think, I know for sure in the therapy space, a lot of times that's what I'm unpacking with Pasifika folks specifically who are queer or trans or
Yeah.
both. It's just like, this idea of blind obedience, meaning you have to sacrifice and the internal battle that places on people's heart, on their spirit, and then their mental, right? We think about, like, you felt, I have to confess this or what?
Yeah.
Right? Like, what happens
Or I
if
would
I
go to
don't?
hell, girl.
Right. And again, you think about the internal dilemma of a 10-year-old person. I think from my own perspective growing up, I was exposed to both the LDS church and AOG. So on my mom's side, that conservative nature of like, this is obedience. You have to go. You don't paint your nails. You have to do these regimens, these routines. There was no questioning that. Because on the cultural side, if you did, then what? Then I'm getting fucked up. I'm getting hit. It's so interesting to me because experiencing the LDS church, it was so conservative and quiet down to how you worship, the song choice, the classes. And then you get exposed to AOG where it's so culturally immersive.
Yeah.
We're dancing, we're singing, and
Yeah.
it's just so much more alive. But again, I think how impressionable I was as a youth, where both were still blind obedience. I had to do certain things in both spaces. None of it was really a choice.
Yeah.
And I think that so many Pasifika people can relate to that, and clearly also so many Filipinos can relate to this concept of like, I don't get to choose. Yeah.
I think it's interesting, like, to go off of what you're saying. That's kind of what moved me to go from the Catholic church to the Christian church, right?
Yeah.
It's like the show, like, and I think that's what attracts young people to the Christian church, right? Like,
Yeah.
you go from like this super regimented, like Sunday, Wednesday schedule, like stand up, sit down, stand up, sit down.
Right,
Mary.
right.
Yo, and the kneeling on the damn. Those
Girl, I'm
both
just
were
like, I
hard,
want to
man.
be on my knees for other reasons
Oh,
besides
oh.
like Sunday, girl. Girl, edit that out. My mom's gonna be upset, but it's okay. But anyway, like, yeah, that's why I was so inclined to go to the Christian church. And then you get there and you're so immersed in the music and like the thought of love, because they talk about love so much. Christ's
Yeah,
love,
yeah.
Christ's love, right? And then they're standing on stage being like, except for you, girl. Except for except for the gays.
Yes.
You know
Yes.
what though?
Oh.
What's interesting to me too is on a clinical perspective, what that does to your nervous system, right? Because you're saying there's this liberating feeling of like, I get to dance, I get to connect, I feel alive, I'm not being told X, Y, and Z. But then the flip side, what happens to your nervous system as soon as you get to praising and they're like, but not you. Then what?
Yes,
Right?
yeah.
Like,
Exactly.
oh my goodness.
Wow, it feels like psychological manipulation, right?
I mean, yes.
Yes, but like for me, I hear you. I have a different take. For me, I like the predictability of the Catholic service. Like I like that I know when it's gonna start. Even if I'm late. Where are we? Got it.
Yeah,
When
yeah.
I'm an hour late because I was out clubbing the night before, dancing, singing, praising in the club, where I also found my sense of God, right, on the dance floor, wherever. But then like, if I decided, okay, I'm gonna go receive communion and repent for sin here and there from the night before, then I knew what was gonna happen.
That's the interesting thing about Catholicism, right? Like they're that retribution of like, I can confess my sins and be forgiven, right?
Uh-huh.
It's such a polar opposite from I feel like the Christian experience where you're just like, it's almost like a bait and switch kind of, right? Like like I remember going in and being like, I love the first half an hour of Christian church, girl. I'd be like Hillsonging it all day, girl, with my hands up in the air, like
Hillsong.
crying, like, yes, Jesus has touched my soul. And then the pastor comes up and he's just like, let's speak tongues and tell you that the gays need to go, girl, and marriage equality is not it. We're gonna go pick it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
girl, what do you mean, girl? Like, and I would like straight up look at my mom and be like, these your people, girl. And then she'd be
Yeah.
like, these are our people. I'm like, I don't know if I can reconcile if these are my people, girl. I'm gonna go sit outside and have a coffee in the cafe until Pastor so-and-so is done with their sermon, girl.
Yeah.
You
So
know?
it's just a different way to bait people, right? They're baiting you with this illusion of joy, right? And then they fucking get you in a different way. And then with the Catholic Church, what I found is they get you with the guilt, right? Because you're constantly feeling like you have to atone for whatever sins you're committing or whatever, right? And for me, that's where my obedience was. It was like, I don't want to feel like I have this sin. But to your point, Vi, when you're talking about obedience within the church, it also made me think about obedience in the military, right? Because you're taught to just take orders from authority, no matter what. And I
Yeah.
think that patriotism is your country. You have to do this for your country and you have to serve
Out of
them,
obligation.
right?
Yeah.
And then, of course, the military and the church, they have us in a chokehold, our people, right?
Yeah. Well, that's what makes me question this concept of like, these organized religions and organized practices is like, was it always meant to be that way? Was that always where we come from? And who's to say? Because I think there's so many people who are Bible thumpers who will say something and then manipulate what the Bible says to prove their point. And then there are other people who question it but still stand on like, yes, and this is just what it is.
I agree. I think that is the case because I really do see that America specifically, politics is so tied. It's tied so
Right.
closely to the military
Right.
and religion, right? And not to say it's not the same in, say, Aotearoa, for instance, but I feel like it's shifted more that way as America has more influence on the church in those countries, right? But I don't think it was that's been the case. Such a strong link, yeah.
I think, one thing that was interesting in my own personal healing journey when it came to my queer identity, religion, and just spirituality and faith was starting to question. And for a lot of people, it's scary to question. One of my first experiences in questioning was even coming to terms with the fear of me questioning. Why am I questioning this, that I feel this way? Does that mean that I'm questioning God? Does that mean that I'm questioning my faith and my trust in God? Because now I'm getting curious. And that's what started to kind of tweak my brain. Like, I don't know that it was always supposed to be in this manner.
And I want to see it disrupted,
Right,
right? Like
right.
one of, well, I have many gripes, but part of what I want to call my people, my Pasifika people, into unpacking and understanding for themselves is, one, part of the beauty of what makes us so freaking phenomenal, is our understanding of our shared responsibility to each other,
Yeah.
right? That sense of anganu,
Yeah.
right? And collective healing that can happen together. I feel like we're being exploited for that.
Yeah.
We're being exploited for that. Our people are being exploited by the very thing that makes us truly special.
Yeah.
And so we see, when we think about the connection between organized religion as it looks like today, which is now, like Christian white nationalism,
Yeah.
and its connection to militarism, right? Power over other people and minority groups, right? That try to tell you that, like, A, B, and C is wrong, and so therefore it needs to be this. It's all to support white supremacy, right? It is the bait and switch. It's exactly that. If you take a step back to a bird's eye view and look at how they're exploiting our people, y'all, when you begin to understand that and unpack that and learn that for yourself, you will be liberated. And I'm just calling people in to, like, liberate their hearts and minds. There is a God out there that loves you because you are you, that embraces you in your imperfections. I went to church when I went to church to atone for the sins because I'm human.
Yeah.
I sin. But what do we do when, we learn, right, and grow and do better?
I
Sorry,
love
that was
you
a
put-
mouthful.
No, I love that you pointed that out, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure that there will be people who will disagree with that.
Yeah.
And no tea, no shade, no disrespect either, because I think part of where you evolve and grow is when you can get curious about all things, not be so convicted in just one, right? And I speak from my own personal experience. I think that's when I felt closest to God, was
Yeah.
when it was more fluidity and less black and white and look
Yeah.
like this fucking box, and but again, that's for me personally, and I think every person has their right to be able to explore that, whether it's constantly explored or if it's explored and figured out and then that's it.
Yo, so Randy, I'd love to hear how you started to transition not even transition, but how your relationship shifted, as far as you being so involved in the church. What does it look like now, Because I know from our conversations, you still maintain this relationship with God, and whether or not it's with the church, I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah. I mean, so much of, I feel like we're like lost siblings in our religious journey.
It's the couch.
Yeah. But that's essentially what I went through. Like, I went through this discovery journey of having to unpack all this trauma, right? Be like years and years of me sitting in these services and
Yeah.
trying to reconcile the fact that you're telling me God loves me and that God is forgiving and that God loves you for who you are. And then you combat that with like different actions, right? And I think like I was super impressionable at the time, and around 2008, is right about when I got out of high school. Please don't try to figure out how old I am. But that's about the time that marriage equality was like in headlines,
Yeah.
right? So I'm sitting in church and I am like having like these amazing moments of seeing the great work that the church is doing, community service, doing fellowship, and then plastered on the screen is like, gays cannot get married. You are sinning. Like, we're going to take your rights away from you. Like, and then to see people who friends, family, extended acquaintances, like
Sure.
being the ones that are like out there rallying against like
Right.
my own existence.
Yeah.
Right.
Is
right.
like-
Praising that fucking
Yeah.
the billboard that says hate all gays.
Yeah, was so difficult, like
Yeah.
to reconcile, right? And then I think that's when, to your point, like my journey of like, is this correct?
Right.
Like does my like relationship with God, is that is it quantified based off of someone else's opinion, right?
Yeah.
Like, because in church we're taught all these values, right?
Right.
And like, why is it that these values get negated by who you were born as.
Correct.
Yeah.
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 So I'm just like, I'm walking on this journey. I'm just like, okay, like the church and my morals and has taught me to be this person, right? Like simple things. And I think controversial, but I feel like some people should go back to their values from when we were younger, because girl, the world is wild now. Like it's not that difficult to hold a door open, be nice to our kupuna,
Yeah.
like have some manners, say please and thank you, give grace.
Right.
But like all of these concepts are things that I learned from the church, from my family,
Sure.
and then that's being blown up, you know?
Yeah. And the grief that goes into that, I think, is unspoken. There's so much grief in like something you've known your whole life and really felt convicted and convinced in, you know, as like, this is who I am, this is what I value, this makes me a good person, right? And for that to be completely negated by your existence as a queer person is fucking wild. And I think it hits a lot of people, because when you have so much value placed in your relationship with God and then that's stripped, people hit rock bottom, and there's so much grief, because how do you find meaning again? How do you find purpose, and how do you find something stronger to connect to, right? Rebuilding that is something I think I see a lot in therapy specifically.
And I think it's interesting because like this relationship with God also had to force me to have deeper conversations. Like me and my mom are super close, but my mom is super religious.
Okay.
And I think like my coming out journey with her had so much to do with us like navigating our religion, right? Because I think
Wow.
even for her,
Yeah.
she's just like, it's wrong, you know? And it's interesting because again, I think I mentioned earlier, like my family, like when I came out, it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah.
And they accepted me for who I am. But it was one of those like guilt things, right? Like, are they accepting me because I am who I am and they fully accept me? Or are they just like the 90% of me who they enjoy and they love negates this like
They
huge
can
part of
excuse
me?
that 10%.
Yes.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And
No, but they're a good person and I love
yes,
them already.
yeah.
But,
And like it's
The gay part,
The
just
gay
put it to the
part.
side. Just leave it there.
we don't fucks with, but
and it's
okay,
always
we'll
in the
still
back
fucks
of your
with you.
head, right?
100%.
So like I feel like that's something that like me and my mom had to work through.
Yeah.
Because I think my mom also, I love her. There's this family group chat and my mom, girl, tea to my
Mom.
family.
Yeah.
But my mom be telling me what's in that family group chat.
Not the family group chat getting exposed.
The sibling group chat, girl, she's on blast.
Okay.
But my mom tells me all the time, like she, you know, like it's interesting to see the evolution of my family, and it's hard also to reconcile the fact that like I'm so much a part of that conversation, right? Like Randy's gayness, like, but he's also a great person, but he also does this, but like, is he great because he's gay or is he great because he's a good person? You know, and it's just like one of those things where I'm just like, that should not be a conversation.
Yeah.
Right? I'm
Yeah.
not going up to you and being like, you did this. Like, so you're a bad person.
I
Yeah.
mean, what you're saying too is like, you know, the topic of someone's queer identity being such a bad flaw or like a heavy thing. But what we're not doing is calling out perpetrators that exist in the church.
Yeah.
Right? We're not talking about the harm that comes from church. And that's where I think it frustrates me in the healing journey of such vulnerable souls, is because I see how much that happens. In so many spaces, not just family, like it's within like extended family, in friendship, in social settings, even in professional settings. If we're gonna keep it 100 in Pasifika spaces, like this episode, for example, right? There might be perspectives that now shift, maybe even my professionalism, because I'm speaking out on the harm that happens within church or organized religion.
Yeah.
But that ain't in the group chat, is it? Maybe in ours.
That's
This
so
group
wild
chat,
that,
girl.
that's so wild to me that your professionalism can be called into question for
Absolutely.
challenging the church specifically, right? Like
Yeah.
that just speaks to the whole idea of obedience, because the consequences that come from disobeying, right?
Yeah, I mean, and how much value is in that as Samoan people, right? And I only speak from my experience as a Samoan person, is like, we value that. We
Yeah.
value if we believe in God, we value how regimented our practices are, and we also value how much we sacrifice for our churches.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I, hell yeah, I think speaking to Samoan community will understand, yeah, it makes sense why someone's professionalism would be questioned, because in our eyes, they go hand in hand.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I also want to add, like, for me, I feel like part of what makes the human experience so beautiful is that we get to interrogate, right, our relationship with faith and spirituality, right? What I'm hearing you describe with relationship to your mom and how it's impacting your family, I think the ways that they're interrogating that is beautiful. I think it sucks that oftentimes queer people are at the center of those conversations in family
Right.
and then also experience the brunt of the harm when people are conflicted internally about what that means for them to be accepting of and embracing of queer people that they know that they love, but they're like, oh, but on this side is supposed to tell me that it's wrong, and so therefore I'm going to take out that aggression on them, right? And then even like tying it to what Vi is sharing too, in instances in the church where someone is in a position of power and is exploiting that power to harm young people, to harm young women, and like it's that. It just takes in like one of those experiences for me to know like this is fucked up. Peace out. Right? Like, but other people, for whatever reason, choose to stay and excuse it. It feels a lot like staying in an abusive relationship. Like, I know it's different, but like that's what it feels like for me.
Yeah, the exchange is familiar though. If I didn't sacrifice and give every part of me to this church and I learned about harm that it did to my very own children, then what?
Yeah.
Right? Then what?
Yeah.
What purpose do I have? What do I have to look forward to? What is my reason of existence? If I no longer have this structure, you know, of this is what it is. And so what I see in generational trauma in Pasifika people is sometimes it feels safer or more familiar to blame these things and leave it as a what is versus questioning it.
Yeah.
But that's why I'm here, right? That's why we have these kind of conversations.
Exactly, because we're all looking for purpose. That's my thing, right? I'm always like, I don't judge anyone who's looking for meaning in life because we're all looking for answers, right? But when you
Yeah.
start to harm people in the name of whatever faith you're following, that's where I'm like, no, that shit has got to stop, right? And for me, when I finally came out publicly and to my family and all that, that's where I was like, okay, what do I need to do to take care of myself? And the church just wasn't cutting it for me. And so to your point, I used to make excuses. Well, I don't think I made excuses like publicly or anything, but internally, I was like, I'm going to church because it serves this purpose, like structure in my life, you know, and it gives me this reprieve of things that, you know, might have me carrying guilt or whatever, right? And then as I started to dig deeper and find out, you know, this doesn't actually make me feel good about who I am.
Yeah.
That's when I started to develop a different relationship with God. But also, I was like, oh shit, if I really take a look at the church, the Catholic Church in particular, look at all these allegations that have been around about molestation for years, you know, and it just made things easier to step away from it for me. And then, I feel like my relationship with self and God has just flourished ever since, right? And it's no longer dictated by rules and again, that obedience, right?
Yeah, and that's the fun part, I would say, of like your journey with faith, with God, with spirituality, or with religion, is that it makes sense for you and where you're at. It makes sense for your needs. And if you feel powerful or you feel healed or whatever that feeling is, that feel good, then okay. Right? Because I think, again, we tend to think in all or nothing, especially in our rich cultures. It's like, it has to be this or that. Well, no, because for some people that ain't it. And I mean, I think I have such a joy in helping people explore what individuality looks like without having to compromise your whole goddamn childhood and where you come from. Like, they both can be true at the same time. Yeah.
Where are you today with your faith?
It's interesting. So, you know, through that whole journey with my family and my mom, and it's an ever-evolving journey, it's brought me, similar to Crit, like it's brought me to a place where I appreciate my relationship with God, my own personal relationship with God, right? Like I think that navigating it through my family and having that community and being able to have honest conversations with them, right? Questioning why they believe in these things, questioning why, like, if we truly love unconditionally, right, then has brought me to a place where now I'm like, okay, like, this is my lived truth. Like, God is forgiving. God is unconditionally loving someone, you know? And to your point, I feel like God is like this thing where it's different for everyone. It doesn't have to be like
Yeah.
a box, right? Like, and I think that's the thought process behind spirituality, right? Like, girl, I don't care if you are worshiping crystals, Buddha, Allah,
The land,
God,
the
like go touch
ocean.
grass, go
Yep.
swim in the ocean if that's God for you too, girl. But like, it grounds you, and I think that's what's great about like just having some type of spirituality and having some type of energy that focuses who you are and guides your principles is it's super grounding, right? And it allows you to have those tough conversations with your family. One specific moment that is amazing is, so all the men in my family, not all, but a lot of the men in my family were in the military and super
Yeah.
conservative, super like, you know, hoorah.
Hoorah!
Starship Troopers.
This is why I wasn't in the military, girl. Can you imagine? I'd be like, "Oh, I put those boots on. Don't yell in my face."
Yeah.
But there was a specific moment, like a couple of years ago, and the family group chat was getting a little heated because it was like election time, and
Yeah.
we have just one person in our family that is voting for the orange monster, but and it was super cute, but my super like religious alpha uncle like came up to me, and we were like at a family party. He was just like, bruh, like fuck them. And I was like, yes, girl.
Period.
And he was just like, I love you, we love you. Like everything that the news is saying like doesn't negate who you are, like what you believe in. Like it doesn't define anything, right? And I think, and he's just like, you grew up believing a certain thing and it's grounded you, and like all of the extra opinions that people like interpret religion to be, that's
Yeah.
on them, right? And just have your own personal relationship. And that really stuck with me, like coming specifically from my uncle, because I was just like, girl, we're not having a heart to heart like that right now, but that's cute. And I think that helped me realize that like that was the evolution of this experience with my family. And it kind of like tied up my whole religious like journey into like a cute little bowl, that so that I can like move forward on my journey and accept spirituality for what it is for me.
It means a lot when we have trusted people who are almost giving us a silent cosign or permission to explore. You know, I know that that was the case for me too, is not having the expectation to go to church almost helped me feel like I want to make the decision. When I decided, I wake up in the morning, oh, I want to go to church, and I'm going to go to church, rather than it being so rigid. And shout out to my parents too, because they come from two very different religious backgrounds, and the concept of spirituality was such a fiapalangi thing to my dad. Was like, spirituality, what is that? And my explanation to him is like, it's the fluidity that exists. It's not a white people thing. Like people tend to think that it is, but it's this individual relationship that is nurtured by so many things. For me, it's God. For other people, it's land. For some people, it's family. You know, and I think that's the beautiful part of having those open discussions with trusted family who are willing to listen, because now they can also help bring you closer to that. Like my parents, my grandparents, my in-laws. My wife's grandma has been such an avid person, like you said, like your uncle, who helped me feel safe in my connection to God, where it was, I'm curious, I'm excited, versus like, fuck all that, I just want to do what I want to do. She helped me read scripture and bring meaning to it, to my life, versus using my life to measure against scripture, if that makes sense. Almost like a rubric of some sort.
And can I just say, white people do not have the monopoly on spirituality, right? They've co-opted so much shit from fucking yoga to crystals
Correct.
to
To breath work.
Exactly. Like they did not come up with their shit. So, you know, I also encourage people to let go of this this idea that doing this is fiapalangi or whatever, right? Because the truth is our people have been involved in deep traditions fucking time immemorial. So yeah, let's trash that.
No.
What's your relationship with religion these days? Or well, religion and faith in general?
Yeah. Being baptized and raised Catholic will always be part of my story, right? I'm grateful that I had an experience to learn how to form and interrogate what a relationship to a higher power and being is from a young age. I'm grateful that today I get to decide on what that looks like and what that is, right? And I'm grateful that today I get to see clearly when human greed, right, is at the center of anything, right? And so what I mean by that is people will use religion and spirituality to advance their human greed, right? And now that I can see those things more clearly, I know that God is not there, right? That I need to look elsewhere.
At least your God ain't there.
At least my God, yeah,
Right.
for me. I'm speaking for myself.
Yeah.
In addition to that, where I find spirituality today is in everything around me. It's in my dreams, right? It's mapped out in the stars. It's in the moments when I see signs from the universe that prove to me that I'm on the right path. It's when, like we talked
Right.
about
Magic
in another
the other
episode,
day,
the
right?
magic that
Yeah.
happens around us. And I know that I could not have arrived there on my own fully, right? I
Okay.
am there in that moment, but that there's something surrounding me that is protecting me to make sure that I'm still here. The fact that I am still sitting here in spite of
Right.
everything that I've
Right.
survived from, every stone that has been thrown on my name and on my being, I am testament, I am living proof that
Yeah.
there is a God that exists.
100%.
Okay.
And so,
Oh, I
yeah.
love that.
I can't even add anything to that. That sums it up perfectly for me as well. Yeah.
I mean, the testimony of our queer existence
Yes.
is exactly, for a lot of us, that's where we found God.
Mm-hmm.
Or that's where we felt, for me, I think, seen by God, held by God, is in the
Yeah.
moments where I felt broken and questioned so much. Wait a minute, I'm finding value, in this. And I don't know for you guys, but I think part of that was hitting that low of
Yeah.
doubting God. Like, I have to own that was a big part of my journey in faith is, no, God wouldn't do this, right? Because why am I going through so much? The questioning of it, the fear, the worry, but also the anger that lives in questioning God for me was, in some way part of my story to be who I am and have the relationship I have is because of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess what I want to end on is, do you have any advice for people who are leaving the church or just really struggling with religion, but their whole community is wrapped up in it, right? And they receive backlash or they're being ostracized for it. Like, what can they do in that circumstance?
Wow. That is a really, really tough one because I don't know if I can give advice that would be as meaningful as someone else that had that experience, right? But I guess what I could say is if you are someone and there's something that's misaligned within the way you are experiencing your church community, right? It's okay to have an expansive approach to how you build community, right? Like the things that I may be connected with on one group might be only in part, and I might connect deeper on different parts with other communities, right? And I know for myself that I am richer in experience and wisdom and knowledge because of that, right? So take the parts for you that work for you, and it's okay to leave the rest.
Just to echo the sentiment of your individual journey, it's so sacred and there's value in that. There's community in being with yourself and spending time by yourself. I don't think that integration necessarily means you have to separate everything. Sometimes it's reclaiming all parts of it and bringing it back to yourself. So my encouragement is start within you. And if you feel comfortable or safe to extend that to someone, let it be someone you feel seen by. Let it be someone you feel loved or cared for. It doesn't always have to be where you come from. Sometimes it's a new creation.
Yeah, I think on that note too, for me, like if your community is one that isn't supporting you, you got to find it somewhere else, right? I feel like there's a greater community waiting for you out there if you allow yourself to really step into that uncertainty. And it's scary as hell, but you going back to faith, that's what faith is at the end of the day, right? You got to trust that it's out there.
I think for me, something that really helped, and I love that you're sitting next to me and I can say this, but something that is super helpful for people, I think, is exploring therapy. unpacking all of the trauma that they went through. There's value to having someone that has lived experience, that can talk through that experience with you, that can workshop what next steps are for you, and then can give you the tools to explore it in a healthy way. So, therapy, girl, it works.
Not you marketing. Yes. Thank you, Brandy. Thank you for doing my job.
Ah.
Didn't even have to do that. Thank you.
Yes, girl. I was in marketing before nonprofit. She knows.
But absolutely, can I just echo that sentiment? Is therapy, of course, is a great place to start with that exploration and to cultivate safety. And sometimes it is finding a therapist who is either aligned with where you're at, or sometimes it's the opposite, someone who can guide you in questioning and challenging. So, be specific with when you're looking for a therapist. And I would encourage you too, to listen to testimonies like Randy's, because it reminds us of how that healing journey can look.
All right, fam. Well, just want to thank you again, Randy, for coming through and hanging out with us.
Gosh, fuck.
Girl, this mosquito's trying to kill
We'll
us.
thank the mosquito too.
Sorry, y'all. Fuck.
Sorry, we're in your
No.
space, mosquito.
Right, and so for Vi's sake, on that note,
Bye.
Therapy.